Hey guys, this is a video for actually two parts of the project because they're both fairly short, but I'm just going to give a brief overview of the visual aid component of this project because it is a requirement if that's something that you need. If you don't have a visual aid, you might need a methodology section. So the methodology section is for groups that took a more experimental route and proposed some sort of experiment or survey that they would want to do about this topic. And the visual aid is for the groups that decided to take a more creative direction. So neither the visual aid nor the methodology need to be extremely long. Most of the information about why you made the choices that you did regarding the supplemental materials for your project description should be stated in your project description and or your executive summary. So the visual aid and the methodology are supplementary. They complement the ideas that you're trying to describe. For the visual aid, they're illustrating what your project would actually look like. You're including the design that you would want it to have. You might be showing me the layout if you wanted to design an app or a website. So it's up to you what type of platform you want to use to create your visual aid. I'm totally fine with you using colored pencils and drawing it and scanning it and uploading it and including it as part of your project that way. I mean, put a little bit of effort into it, make sure that it looks like how an interface would actually look, that I can get a sense of why you chose the medium that you chose, but you don't have to be a Photoshop wizard in order to include an effective visual aid here. As I mentioned in one of the longer videos, I've seen groups use PowerPoint for their visual aid before. It's good for a group that's doing a workshop. It's good for an app or a website because you can show the different pathways that the user could be led through if they were using your product. So PowerPoint is an option. If you do have Photoshop, go for it. Get really creative if you want. Use Microsoft Paint. You can use photos that you've taken to illustrate things if you're making a poster or something like that. You can use open source images online. If you are opting to use a chart or an image that you're getting from one of your sources, just make sure that you cite it. So I am totally fine with you including like a chart illustrating your statistics. If you're not making it yourself, if you're getting it from one of those research sources that you use writing your lit review, just make sure that underneath that graphic, you're including the website that you got it from, just the URL, and then the photographer, first name, last name, if it's available. You might have to hunt around on a website a little bit. Most often, the name of whoever provided the image is going to be directly under the image, so look there first. It might not necessarily be at the top next to the author's name, but I most commonly see it directly under the image. If there's not one right under the image, you can just cite the website using the URL. So yeah, that's always an option to you for a visual aid too, especially if you have some sort of workshop or presentation and you want to point to the graphics that were in your original sources. So yeah, visual aid stuff. If you have any more questions or want to know if something's okay to use, just shoot me an email. Odds are it will be. This is a section of the project where you can be a little bit creative. Alright, so the methodology. Definitely different side of the coin. The methodology section does not have to be as detailed as it would be in a class which is more focused around like scientific topics. Since you've had a lot of freedom with the type of project that you want to do for this course, a lot of people have chosen to do experiments in the past. I had a group one year, I mentioned this, that wanted to do a sleep study. So if that's something that your group thought of, just make sure that you have a methodology section which is following some of the guidelines for that genre, just describing step-by-step things like demographic, like sample size, why you think it would work if you're using questions, like, you know, if you have a survey or something that you've designed, describe why you designed it the way that you did. The methodology section is really just a way to show that you recognize that in a more experimental or scientific project you do need to have some sort of explanation of your methodology, even though for this project it'll be much shorter than it would be for something in a different discipline, and it's a hypothetical experiment, so it's more creative in that aspect too. Just make sure that your methodology is aligned with your budget too, and that you're not saying in your methodology that you need certain things which are not then reflected in your budget. So I think that covers the bases for those two components. If you're doing one, you should probably be doing at least one other part of the project, since they're a little bit shorter, a little bit less intense, less researched than things like the executive summary and lit review. So let me know if you have any questions on those, and I also encourage you, if you are doing methodology, to do some of that research independently, since it's not something that we've talked about too much in this class. Just see what the sources that you're using are doing for that. Reread some of those abstracts to see the way that they kind of outline, okay, this is this type of study, this is this type of experiment, this is how we conducted it, this is why we think that that method works well for this topic. So that's what the methodology section sounds like. And again, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email, and that should cover it.